Welcome back, everybody, to more of the 2018 LCK Spring. I am Valdez. With me is Papa Smith here at Spo TV. We got another great matchup coming at you guys. It's going to be the Afreeca Freecs up against KingZone DragonX. We are live at the Nexon Arena. How are you feeling, Papa?
I'm feeling a little bit cold, Valdez. Today, the match is going to have to heat up my heart because the gods certainly haven't. -10 as we go live. Predicted to be -16 today. We've got a lot of heat in here, but the breeze is likely to come in. Hopefully the League of Legends can be top-notch because, like you say, it's a very interesting matchup. We actually haven't seen KingZone DragonX since they played. You and I were watching that one a week ago, so they only played once in week 1 of the LCK. They have to play 3 times this week. A bit of a super week for them.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and introduce our 2 teams that are going to be playing here with our host, Kim Soo-hyun.
Yeah, the Afreeca Freecs here looked so good against KT Rolster. We wondered, okay, maybe a mechanical upgrade bringing Kiin into the top lane, formerly of Ever8 winners, but losing Marin, their established shot caller. How would it affect them? Honestly, Valdez, in the late game, they look just as good, maybe even better. So Spirit picking up the slack there. We are told he is their new shot caller. This is expected to be their strongest 5. They stick with Kiin, Spirit, Kuro, Kramer, and TusiN. With KingZone really wanting to play themselves into form. This is a tough time to face an Afreeca team that look good straight up.
They look fantastic, at least after their first game. They were able to take out KT with that 2-1 victory. That's what it says down in the bottom in the Korean. They're very excited and happy that they were able to take that victory. The team as a whole, you know, not one of the first teams you would mention, unless you're Fion on Twitter, about, you know, the biggest teams in LCK. But they definitely have proven themselves after their first game, at least.
And they're getting there. You know, the roster they put together in 2017 may not have got them higher than 5th, but it certainly had a lot of stars, right? A lot of veterans. They took a long time to gel. By the end of the year, they were looking good. Not necessarily the next level, though. They can still improve.
오늘은 칸과 함께합니다.
So here we have KingZone DragonX coming back here for their second game of LCK. Had a bit of a stumble in their first one up against KSV, who is looking stronger than ever. Peanut had a couple of rough games on Nidalee. I know a lot of people were talking about that, but overall it seems a bit like a team issue. They're going to have Khan back now for their second game of the season. I would expect a much more solid performance tonight.
And because it's the start of the season, let's remind you guys, this is the reigning LCK champion team of Longzhu Gaming. We'll intersperse it there. New name is KingZone. Like you say, Peanut for Kha'Zix. We saw Kha'Zix in the studio, so he's definitely here. They will be starting Peanut again, predictably giving another run. This is their strongest 5. This is the 5 that took them to the final, to the 5th game against KT Rolster in the Kesper Cup final a couple of months ago. It's very difficult to ask, though. You know, they still have to work out their synergy. We're still not 100% sure what the final play style for KingZone will be. And that's why it's rough for them to have to face a Afreeca team that seemed like they were in complete sync the first time of asking.
Yeah, it's a scary Afreeca team that they have to go up against. You were talking about Spirit in the jungle. His Shyvana looked pretty godly, especially in that 3rd game. We'll see if they let that one go through. This says he wants to see Braum. I don't really know who that is. And something about BDD, one of the strongest mid laners we have here in LCK.
I think we all wanted to see Khan back in the lineup. That's the big takeaway, is his absence was felt. Roscoe was certainly not an underperformer, but the synergy between lanes, top lane, mid lane, and jungle especially was a bit askew. They still had things to work on, whereas this man, the hyper carry top lane matchup, we're going to have a carry top lane matchup almost 100% Valdez. Kiin looked really good on his debut on the side of Afreeca. We're going to look at some of the stories. We Are a Strong Afreeca is a pretty good subtitle for what we saw the other day.
Yeah, it definitely is. They had 4 defeats in a row against KT.
2017 was not kind.
It was rough for them. And finally, in the first game, they go up against KT and they overcome them. It's really setting the tone for this team for 2018. Kiin comes in instead of Marin. They lost their big shot caller up in the top lane, but a very aggressive Kiin who has shown a lot of promise in the top lane. Definitely is pretty nice for this team.
And Kuro, 11 Azir defeats in a row. I said on cast that it was going to be so big for him to rewrite that history. Maybe he can leave it in the past. 1,013 days he went without a victory on Azir. Reminds you how long Azir can actually be available. The fact that he's been available for almost the best part of 3 years feels like a newer champion to me. I guess I'm just an old fogey. But 1,013 days it took between Azir victories. He can return to it. It's an important meta pick. It no longer has to be a must ban for the Afreeca Freecs.
It says on top, it says, can I be a spearman?
Well, can you be a spearman, Valdez?
Can you be a spearman? He proved it in his last game, right?
Can you be a spearman,
Can I be a spearman? I've tried Azir a couple of times, did not go well. I stick to the easier stuff like press R and win, such as Malzahar.
I did see you were...
We'll be seeing a little bit of him a little bit later on.
You're definitely a dirty Malzahar picker from looking at your solo queue account. And look at Spirit versus Peanut. The fun jungle matchup was SKT versus Afreeca. Last year, this time it is Kingzone versus Afreeca. The numbers aren't going to be good for Peanut or for the side of Kingzone after going 2-0 down to KSV, but I think we're already firmly putting KSV as the early favorites by far for spring, so perhaps not necessarily the most on the ball of KDA numbers. They'll improve.
You can see the damage percentage at the bottom, even though we were talking about how Peanut had some weak games on his Nidalee, he still managed to get 16% of his team's damage. Kind of shows how Kingzone did on that day.
And then we get to look at this man, BDD. So many Western fans talking about him playing in spring. We never saw him. But in summer season, in tandem with Khan and Kha'Zix, what a star was BDD. 11.27 KDA. He averaged 0.9 deaths a game. That's not many. That's less than 1. And he had 20 0-death games. 20, Valdez. That's more games than an NA or EU LCS team plays in a split now. That is how many games he went deathless.
It's ridiculous. A team plays, what do they play, 18? Best of 3s here in LCK?
We do play 18.
I think it's 18 per team, right? So out of those 18 best of 3s, 20 games were actually 0 deaths. It's insane. He was playing a lot of Galio, a lot of, champions that would not die, including Galio in 2017. So it does make sense, but it really just points to how solid and controlled his play style was. I love watching BDD. He was a big pick for me in 2017, and unfortunately, his first match wasn't so great, but hopefully this time in the second game he will do better. How are you feeling about this? What are you thinking about predictions here?
It's an awkward one because I like both these teams. The new Afreeca has impressed me with how good they were off the gate. Maybe that means they're going to have a stumble here. Maybe it was just the first day, everything coming together, and the next one kind of tipping over. Whereas for the side of Kingzone, unfortunately for them, they didn't get a first run with this roster. It's actually their first run today, 1 week removed from when they would have wanted to make their debut. Khan couldn't play because of his colorful language in solo queue. Yeah. He's been playing a lot of solo queue, and looking at his stats, he's certainly been spamming the games there. If he's in form, he's such a big carry, and I just want to watch the top lane. You know how we've kind of given up on the bot lane with the 4 relic shields, and we said, okay, that makes top lane more hype. It gets hyped to the nth degree when we get Kiin versus Khan.
It's going to be lots of fireworks. You were hoping for some fire, some heat in this game to actually get us heated up because it's really cold here. We both have hot heat packs to keep us warm, and hopefully the games can help out with that. But guys, it looks like game number 1 is ready to go here. Pick and ban. We'll get started right now. Right off the bat, Afreeca will be on blue side. Kingzone starting on the red side. And let's get into it.
Very blue side favored over the course of the LCK. Not as one-sided as it was on the first OGN day where we had 6 blue side games, but 65% I believe is the blue side win rate. And it seems like Afreeca have done the same detective work I've done. You look at the solo queue account, and even after failing in that Nidalee game, 13 games of Nidalee, 10-3 for Peanut over the past 7 days since they last played. So probably a smart ban and try and force us into a more conventional team comp from the side of Kingzone.
Yeah, we have some similarities with 2017 where you were talking about a lot of the hyper carries getting banned out on the red side. It's something that the red side almost has to do unless they want to trade hyper carry for hyper carry, whereas the blue side gets a little bit more space and room to go for the targeted bans, as we do see with that Nidalee.
The GP ban is pretty interesting though, Valdez, because if you think about it, we already have established there's multiple picks that are strong into the Gangplank, and yet on red side they're banning it away, not letting Afreeca say Kiin, for example, first pick Gangplank and then giving the cherry-picked counter pick to Khan. They just don't want to deal with the champion at all after trying to run the red side Vladimir last time out. So kind of a surprise, definitely a respect ban to Kiin, saying, you know, there are picks against it, but we just don't want to have to deal with it. So perhaps also freeing up some of the second rotation red side picks, not necessarily for the top lane, just looking for something a bit safer.
Yeah. Lots of picks left over here as Kingzone is thinking about their last ban down to the last second.
Can't ban both those AD carries. Maybe you ban something else and just trade them. Kog'Maw and also the Ezreal up. Ezreal going to be very high priority, but Kog'Maw was first picked multiple times, and you see that Zac ban actually around the world. Zac, a champion that people weren't really talking about for patch 8.1, has had a very high win rate. So just a respect ban. People don't want to deal with that engage range. You have your choice of AD carry. Afreeca will go with the Ezreal.
Yeah, Ezreal is pretty ridiculous right now with Kleptomancy. You can build up so much gold early on. You can do it from a safe distance. You have that arcane shift to have an even safer lane, but also to get aggressive a little bit later on once you get that red buff to just do some incredible poking damage. A little bit different from the, you know, super hyper carry guys such as Tristana, Kog'Maw, Twitch. But definitely has his own spot here in the meta. We are going to see Kha'Zix picked up now on the side of Kingzone. Peanut trying to channel his inner Cuz, perhaps.
I mean, priority on the Kha'Zix kind of wavered in recent days just because, you know, KT, for example, struggling pretty heavily with scoring that champion and such tanky lineups, meaning that, hey, early game you got the stopwatch, you got the flash not getting going, and then the tanks just outdoing Kha'Zix in the late game. Of course, getting the one shot on FLICKR and ending that 94-minute game was a bit of a counterpoint there, but they'll go with the Kha'Zix, definitely the sort of aggressive jungler, as you mentioned, Peanut likes to trade in. He's going to blind pick the mid lane. Ryze is the #1 choice, with the Malzahar on the board if they want a good laning option into him here for the Afreeca Freecs.
Yeah, we'll see if Kuro wants to revisit his Azir as well, still on the board here, as it does get hovered right now. Maybe feeling a bit more confidence after getting his first win in a while. See if they actually do lock it in here.
Ryze traditionally does well into Azir, but the Malzahar does better, Valdez, so it will just go with the Champion.gg style tier list pick and go for the Malzahar. Ryze is good early, and it's only really about the all-in potential on the Ryze, especially if he only has tier to really try to hold him down. Lots of blind picks here for the side of Kingzone. They seem to have decided that they know what they want. They will be going for the Gnar. Probably not respecting the counterpick Yasuo from Kiin, but I'm sure we'd love to see that.
Oh, please. I mean, a man can dream, I suppose, but very unlikely at this point. Let's see what they want to go with for the second bans here. Perhaps some counters for the Gnar up top. You were talking about Yasuo, but Jace as a ban seems a little bit more solid, Papa.
Just trying to take out some of the picks that are good. Yeah, I don't think we'll see a Kennen ban, but that's also a coverage ban for the Gnar if they really do respect Kiin going in that direction. Let's see what the decisions are from Afreeca. They'll be a bit surprised to see so much priority placed on safe and strong solo lanes and none given for the bot lane. But that's kind of the Kingzone and formerly Longzhu way, right? It was all about prey and gorilla, dealing with no resources and trying to play a farm lane. Still will be strong champions available. Seems like for now, at least, Afreeca are pretty happy for Kingzone to opt into something like the Kog'Maw, and now 2 strong laning options into the Gnar are denied.
Another sign here saying that they wanted to see Khan. Well, he's back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure a lot of you guys wanted to see him as well. We'll be seeing him on the Gnar to start. Nothing too carry heavy, but we'll see if he can get some nice ults later on. We did see the Tom Kents and the Kog'Maw banned out here by Afreeca. Yet to choose the AD carry and the support is KingZone, and I'm happy for one. I didn't really want to see the Tom Kents. He's pretty obnoxious nowadays.
The Varus also has been first picked by other teams and is available as a stronger laning phase than the Kog'Maw. You can see Prey talking to his team, just confirming details, but they will be locking in the Varus. Expected to be a tank support there. Extended laning phase, non-interactive laning phase suits the side of KingZone to a T. Based on their old playstyle, of course, we should mention that we're still going to learn about what their new playstyle is, whether they'll just try to plug and play Peanut and play him as if he's Kha'Zix, which to me doesn't sound right. You know, it's definitely the kind of antithesis of what I expected to see is, okay, Rengar locked in here from Spirit. Notice that he'd been playing it a bit in solo queue, been pretty popular so far, and it is kind of a soft counter, a skill matchup against the Kha'Zix. Who knows, we hit the right early minutes, and we might actually see the quest of the Hunt Beyond in the late game, get that 4th evolution for the Kha'Zix. Just waiting on Kiin's choice against the Gnar.
He gets a pick after seeing it's not a blind pick. He is going to go with the Shen to add just a bit of a tanky liner and also an option to have a global a little bit later on for that split pusher. So that does get locked in, as well as the Alistar, another top-tier tank support that we see nowadays for Gorilla on the side of KingZone.
It's a really hard initiate draft coming through from Afreeca. Flash, Malzahar we know all about, but also the submarine-esque plays with Rengar and is on the hunt, and Shen potentially piling on with the ultimate. So very strong engage, and then Ezreal as this hyper carry who has the hyper mobility that only Ezreal can have in that role, able to skip around the back. So it doesn't need a lot of peel because he has self-peel, whereas on the side of KingZone, a very early locked in their solo lanes. So trying to get the ability to push early for Ryze, certainly, but basically the entirety of the laning phase for the Gnar. So another draft where Peanut is empowered to kind of make his own decision to push, to do whatever he wants, but that was a bit of a double-edged sword for them after dying to ambition in the jungle against KSV. So KingZone once again had the sort of draft that makes sense on paper, but let's see if they can actually achieve their win conditions in practice.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking for that first win. Kind of funny. I was expecting KingZone to come into LCK and be number 1, number 2. You know, we were talking a lot about how they added a just overall better player. They should be better, but still looking to see if they can fix some of their problems that we saw in game number 1. No
guarantee that 5 mechanical players come together and make a wholesome team that actually has solid win conditions, and we're still ready to be convinced by KingZone. There's so much damn talent that they should get there. But will they get there today, Valdez? That's the question we're going to find out.
Well, I know a lot of those KingZone players were very disappointed after their performance in game number 1, but Afreeca looking to extend their streak and pick up a second win. Let's see what they can do up against KingZone for game number 1. Oh, that's strange. We didn't go into the game. I wonder what happened, Papa.
Well, I see Kuro playing around with his hand warmer, which lets me know that we're probably in a pause, Valdez. I got used to this on the OGN days. Oh. Wow, he's actually just had a hand warmer thrown over. Not sure what happened there.
Teamwork on Afreeca is on point, as you guys can see. I actually broke my hand warmer, and a bunch of black dust went all over my hands.
Don't eat that, by the way, Valdez. Don't eat it.
I'll try not to. I know some people in America are having trouble not eating things. That's a new meme apparently in 2018.
To be fair, it doesn't say do not eat on it, which either means it has high expectations for the user, or maybe it's an oversight, hard to say. But
yeah, maybe it says it on the inside. You know, once you break it open, it's like, oh, you shouldn't eat this, by the way. Apparently the pause was a very short one, and we're ready to go into game, guys. So.
Longzhu fans certainly repping for KingZone, still super popular with the fans. They are the reigning champions, weren't able to overcome Samsung at Worlds, of course, couldn't go on to add the Worlds crown, but this is the lineup people wanted to see. It felt like a false start for Kingzone. Their fans will allow them that if they can pick up the victory here. But what we saw out of Afreeca, very much impressing in all 3 games, even their loss against KT Rolster. There's no guarantees about where this one goes.
Is that Mecha Kha'Zix
It's a
against
Kramer.
Mecha Rengar?
I believe it is. It's a mecha battle.
I don't know if that's the name of the skin, but they both look exactly the same with the same color scheme as well. Pretty cool to see.
Who knows? Maybe they met in solo queue and said, let's just, go for it if this matchup does happen. All right, we're seeing a late invade here from Afreeca. They have Braum, but he misses the Q, so the threat's not quite there.
Yeah, a lot of this is also for Kramer to come in and just stack that Klepto as much as possible. Get some Qs down, be annoying, do some early damage. You guys can see how low Gorilla already is after that
It's
start.
even more important than that, Valdez, because consider the advantage it gives Spirit, who didn't have to smite his first cap and knows for sure where Peanut started. So when you know that you're in a matchup where you heavily expect Peanut to be invading, having both the start timer and the smite advantage to clear faster, that's a double advantage for the side of Afreeca Freecs.
And it's such a small move, right? All you have to do is walk in, you see Ryze in the mid lane, you're not in danger, and you can just go in there and poke a little bit. It's a very good spot there for Afreeca.
This level 2 is getting a huge laning advantage for Kramer and TusiN, who were in great form last week. Something else I want to point out on the minimap. Notice 2 red wards already for the side of Kingzone. They do want to invade top side, but that hardware, that vision is kind of undone by the fact that it's such a slower jungle clear for Peanut.
Yeah, taking a look at the items, we like to do the stopwatch count. We do have 4 in this game for the mid and jungles of both sides, but, well, we did just have the CG come up and rudely interrupt me. But both BDD and Kuro took minion dematerializer, but also both supports took it as well. So this is becoming more and more popular, especially in Korea, over those free-ass boots, Papa.
It kind of becomes that point where you want boots early. BDD is going aggressive on Kuro.
Oh, man. Let's see if he can land his Q. He's going to get one more. Forces that flash out. Wanted to do that last bit of the cycle, and already you can see BDD making his presence known in the mid lane.
He certainly feels like he's the alpha in the mid lane, and showing it does mean that Peanut can also invade very happily, knowing he has his mid laner to rotate, although BDD will want to go back and pick up his tier soon. Considering a turret dive, but for now Peanut just counter jungling.
Yeah, they can see him too, so...
He notices Kiin out of lane, so he kind of puts 2 and 2 together and won't overstay for the Gromp. You mentioned the dematerialize, and I think that's kind of this interesting kind of headspace where if you're against an Ezreal lane, you know that someone has to take it, as Prey once again almost has concussive blows fully stacked. The Ezreal lane, the support or Ezreal himself will almost always take it just to be able to keep up in the pushing war against basically anyone, but certainly Varus and Sivir and the other meta AD carries, but then you take it yourself to kind of equalize up that kind of situation. So that's why you see Gorilla take. He's actually holding on to the charges, already 2 used by Braum in the early laning phase, but Gorilla trying to show control. I wanted to mention that you mentioned the Materializer, also taking Unsealed Spellbook. This is what Ming took for RNG, and the Ghost Flash, boots of mobility, Alistar in the late game was just an insane factor. So that's why we see Gorilla going into Unsealed Spellbook on the Alistar in particular, because then he becomes a one-man wrecking crew when it comes to the initiation.
It's incredibly oppressive. You need someone on your team to do the initiation. It's going to be himself or the Gnar, and so a lot of pressure will be on Gorilla to go for that kind of initiation. TusiN, by the way, he did go into that secondary inspiration, and everybody's memeing about stopwatch and the free boots, but it seems like nowadays, just to finish up that point, like a lot of people are going exactly against that, going into the biscuit even instead of the stopwatch down there.
Yeah, biscuits here, and also, like you say, the dematerializer is what Braum has taken in the secondary. I think for supports especially, the value of the free boots waivers. I feel there's some champions like Tom Kench who just wants to lane and be there for Devour, where free boots are good. But for Alistar, who first buy gets a boots of mobility and can roam, especially in solo queue, the free boots delays your roam timing, and also just having even just regular boots in lane makes you in range for your headbutt pulverize combo more. That free boots are a bit more optional or situational than perhaps you might have thought. The stopwatch for non-tank supports, I think, is very, very valuable, but you know, we're still learning the meta. Players are still putting this all together, so we will see those choices evolve as the season goes on, and especially when the balance patches start.
Yeah. I just went over who has taken inspiration. The only person that did not take it was Khan up in the top lane for King Zone. So 9 out of 10 members taking some part of the inspiration tree. Spirit is going to be seen down here and actually delayed on his back by a nice piercing arrow from Prey. Going a bit aggressive now is Khan, not looking to kill Kiin here, but looking to push him out of lane.
Yeah, often we see now is just ult early, just go for a full rotation of damage, and look, a solo kill's lovely, but forcing the enemy top laner out of lane is just as good, right, at the end of the day? Saw some people get a bit too greedy around situations like that. I think of Smeb diving in and dying 1v5, looking for a 1v1, but in this particular scenario, more lane control for the player who wants lane control, and when Shen's chunked out, he's not teleporting to other lanes with his ultimate, and he's also not helping his jungler, so it's another thing that sets up Peanut to, once again, at minimum, pick up this Rift Scuttler. He would have loved to contest the blue, but doesn't look like he'll be in time.
Yeah, gonna hand that over to Kuro here, and as you did mention, teleport is used up in the top lane by Kiin, so we'll see if they do want to get aggressive anywhere with that submarine with the Rengar. He still does have his ultimate available. Perhaps Khan will just try to push the top lane if that does happen, because he did use his own teleport. So not looking to respond to a Shen aggressive gank with his own TP.
But, you know, you were talking about the free boots and the stopwatch. Definitely, you know, Reddit's pick of, you know, the things in the meta right now that are annoying, but I think it's all centered around the one thing, which is game time, right? Here in Korea, we just had a 94.5-minute game. You can put that to one side, but the average game time in EU and Korea is around 42 minutes. So long games happening in the meta, and a lot of people, I'm sure, are asking why. Why are the games so long? And the stopwatch certainly contributes. We mentioned that a successful gank is kind of blowing stopwatch and then blowing flash. You don't often get both in one go. So that's one thing, is that you have an extra defensive tool that has to be baited before a kill can actually come up. But there's also the zombie wards, extending ward life, and also allowing the snowballing team to be that much safer. And then you think of bot lane, double relic shield for more healing, fleet footwork for more healing, overheal. It feels like all the tools, if you kind of step back, that have been min-maxed by the pro players are about survivability. And when Korea, it makes sense, right? We're a very risk-averse region. The stopwatches are used much more defensively than for 5-man turret dives. It is so cool to watch in the LPL. And so with everything being used to guarantee the late game, KSV, they're drafting for late game team fights every time. And every comp that's not about late game team fights, you wonder, can they actually get it done early enough? The answer so far has been a resounding no.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not the most exciting time of League of Legends for myself. It's just passivity through the first 20, 30 minutes, and even after that, it's like, well, unless a team gets very far ahead somehow, some way, through their own better passivity, do they actually get a chance to end it near 30 minutes? So we'll see if either of these teams wants to go for any kind of picks. We were talking about Shen with the submarine, but these guys are level 8 and 7. Nothing really happening. The Malzahar in mid lane is sitting on flash and ultimate, but still they're like, no, we're just not going to do anything with that. So I don't know, Papa. Maybe just need to take a back seat here for the first half of the game at least.
You know what the most amusing thing is, and I think everyone at home that still plays will note this, that it's one of the best times to be playing solo queue. The games are shorter in solo queue. Solo queue right now, a lot of stuff is viable, but unfortunately the min-maxing in pro play has to be to extend the games. You know, Riot was talking about ways to extend games for solo queue. If they did that, then the pro games would be going 60 minutes. So this is one of the first times where I feel like the pro meta and solo queue are at polar opposites. Not just, well, it's a different game. It's so different now with how things have gone, but might be seeing some incoming pain in mid lane, but maybe not. It's not the meta for that, apparently.
He picked up QSS before 10 minutes, so what are you really going to do?
Well, let's talk about the items in mid lane and how they fit into our picture of the meta. It's gold per 10 versus QSS and double scaling items because he's Ryze. So pretty cool stuff there.
You were talking about how we don't look at the bottom lane for action anymore, but where do we look for action now, Papa? The top lane is Shen desperately trying to farm under turret. Gnar just pushing him in. The junglers are power farming. We haven't seen a single gank out of either of them, nor a counter invade. Let me just get that in there as well.
It's a lot of
just the
time
way
for
it
us
is.
to build up our rapport,
True.
work on our own pirate podcast, compared to all the OGN podcasts. We got
Yeah.
a lot of options here. There's a lot of space for us to talk, Brendan.
That is true. Have a lot of extra time to get into
Are there any
this.
funny accents you want to try on for the viewers that you've been practicing? I mean, this is the time, right?
Funny accents?
You know, like the comedy podcast stuff. I'm sure you're developing your own kind of artistry in your spare time.
We're working on my accents to,
Yeah.
to prepare for the cast. Actually, after this first week, I was thinking, like, well, we got to do something to spice up the broadcast, right? We're not just going to talk about how Peanut's soloing the Rift Herald and no one seems to care.
You said something about removing your shirt, but the weather's not working for that one.
Yeah,
so
maybe
back to the
summer.
drawing board.
You know, keep here, guys. We got summer on the way a little bit later. No promises, but we'll see. So Ocean Drake for Rift Heralds. That's the trade that's going on here.
You'll be happy to know it keeps the game vaguely even as well.
Yes, exactly. Very
Balance in
vaguely
all
even.
things over here.
Damage dealt so far. We got two people on the left side that have 0 damage. Kha'Zix and Rengar both have 0 damage.
Has Shen really not balmy cindered one tick? Come on, surely.
I don't know, man.
Has he never been
Well,
in melee range?
When Khan ulted that time, did he have Bomby Cinder?
Surely it's wrong, please.
I'm not so sure. Maybe it just doesn't register.
This is definitely a screenshot for all time.
Yeah. Sitting here at 12 minutes into the game. Three people on the Rift have 0 damage to champions.
Well, this is where we live, Brendan. You know the famous meme with the dog and the house on fire? This is fine.
Yeah, this is totally fine. We might have this turret go down, though, guys.
That's exciting.
The Shen is going to get pushed in. I mean, that is the way that matchup does go.
And, you know, all things being equal, this is good for Kingzone. This lane has gone exactly as planned. So, you know, the inaction aside, this is the first big win, and there's no easy objective for Afreeca to answer. So, okay, a win's a win. We got to reward a win.
Yeah, for sure. They will get a bit of a gold lead here, about 2,000 ahead. I wanted to point out the items down in the bottom lane. You'll notice that the Braum did go for the Biscuiteer, as we were talking about. He's stacked 4 biscuits because he doesn't need to use them. So by the late game, he can just like spam his biscuits to have even higher health and mana
Think about this, Brendan.
regen.
Didn't he take the wrong mastery then?
I think he did.
He got no value out of it.
I think he did.
He either was outplayed or wasn't playing aggressively enough to justify Biscuiteer. If I'm the coach, I look at that and say, hey, how much value did you get out of that mastery? Get something else.
I mean, but at the same time, does anyone really want to see another stopwatch on the Rift? I'm not so sure.
If they're turret diving with it.
I guess TusiN would, if it would help him out.
Let's go back to the game for a moment before we go back to Sillyville. Worth noting, you know, we should say very extended laning phase, who's that better for in every lane, right? Because in different scenarios, people are going to be advantaged by having long laning phase. Prey in a non-interactive laning phase got a completed Rage Blade with nothing happen. We know that is a huge thing. That was one of the big meta points back at Worlds, was how much could you get done before the Rage Blade power spike came through. So non-interactive, everyone healing laning phase. And with an Alistar support who's not the strongest, it is relevant to mention that Rage Blade in a free lane is great for the side of Kingzone. Taking top lane turrets certainly is great too. So you could say in 2 lanes things have gone well for them, and BDD pressured out Kuro. Is it enough for the late game? Is it enough for what we expect of the meta? No, but it is in the context of what we're seeing, the inaction we're seeing. The inaction so far has favored Kingzone.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I love Ryze's items right now.
Oh!
The damage dealt! Shen did some damage.
Yeah!
That must be from Sunfire Cape. I don't know if he hit the Gnar.
He could have taunted at some point, off screen.
I didn't see it. The
Gnar, Korean
though,
casters lost their minds. They had nothing to shout about. It was awkward.
Yeah, that essentially is their cast. So they got that in there. But yeah, the Gnar doubling the damage of everyone else. The Rift Herald's coming on in.
We're going to double up the turrets. Yeah!
Getting some action here on the Rift.
All right, can we slow this down? That's too much action. I need a deep breath.
Oh no, it's gonna hit the second turret.
Boom!
Okay. Well, they get that done. It's very nice, even extending their gold lead a little bit more, up to almost 3,000.
So let's think outside the box. Let's live in a world where Riot isn't gonna direct fix all of this with balance changes, which will happen eventually. What we could do instead, let's just adjust the early game.
Okay.
Why don't instead the casters get to award a score based on a team's performance in the first 15 minutes? They just put the camera on us because there's nothing to show in the game. We raise a number out of 10, and that affects the game score, right? Like, well, like that's a 9 out of 10 for KingZone, only an 8 for Afreeca. They need to keep the turret up. Why wasn't Rengar there to push up some farm? That's another way we could change the meta and just allow, you know.
So you're saying it would directly affect the game?
We have to, because we have to play within the context of the game we've been given, which is this one.
So if we give them a rating, do they get some bonus points from
I
that?
think so,
something?
yeah. It's like you know how we had that
gold?
season with like -3 game score for all sorts of showing up late and stuff?
Yeah.
Performing in the early game should be rewarded, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I was looking at the CG down here. I didn't even realize that these guys ganked. I don't know which ganking parts they're talking about. Which
Just so you guys know, the jungle proximity of 1 minute in 16 minutes is not a lot of minutes.
They're power farming, right? The Rengar is getting close to the Shen. The Kha'Zix having a bit harder of a time.
The problem
his
with
lanes are farming better.
problem with junglers power farming this meta is that the numbers are so irrelevant. Like you kind of have to look at the gold just because, and the gold's going to be influenced by the turrets that went down. But given that Gromp and like the a million Krugs kind of have equal value in some cases, it's still one of those things where it doesn't necessarily mean that Spirit has been farming better, just farming differently.
I wonder if you were talking about the hypothetical situation where this meta doesn't change. Will change eventually. I don't know when that is, but
well, I mean, there's no patch on live, so it's definitely going to be what, week 4 at the earliest. It feels like. We always give 1 full week before the changes come through to professional play.
Will teams just begin to only build super scaling comps?
Did you see
like
Faker's
only
Kassadin?
Shyvana every game?
I mean, Gathering Storm is becoming the secret
Storm,
OP.
Yes.
No one
you were
had
talking about that in the
No one had
94-minute game, but it's still good if you get past 30, 40 minutes. It's certainly better than
Scorch.
Biscuit Delivery,
Or
right?
Scorch is in the same tree as
come
well.
on. The Gnar has Scorch. Does he need Scorch? I guess he does in that lane, maybe.
I mean, he got the turret, so we can't blame the Scorch there.
Scorch is good for him, but perhaps for others. Gathering Storm, please. Let's see it. Trying to steal the blue, the taunt misses.
Ooh, almost some damage on Khan, doesn't happen.
Kiin almost got to, about 1,000 damage.
I mean, this is good from Khan, though. He's trying to create as much pressure as possible. He can't push into the inner turret. Doesn't quite pick up the blue buff, but just trying to be a nuisance and put some question marks in the head of Afreeca Freecs.
KingZone looking to pick up the second dragon of the game. We are going to have some action here as the Rengar ulting in. There's that submarine jumping in onto Gorilla, knocks a couple of people up. You can see TusiN in the front just guarding everyone else as they try to take out Gorilla here. The dragon is going to go over to Afreeca, but Gorilla, he makes it out for now. There's the Braum ultimate. It's going to go wide. Here comes Spirit, though, and that first burst damage out of the brush is going to take him down. TusiN with the first blood. They do get the Mountain Drake as well, so finally Afreeca able to make something happen in this game.
They actually use the Shen ultimate proactively. Means they're going to have Khan get some turret damage. He didn't push in. He's going to have to hurry up. He's being slow with the minion wave. Going to be the mid lane outer turret falling basically for free as the cherry on top, and Khan decided not to teleport, and in the end, big advantage to the side of Afreeca Freecs. If you watch the replay, the things start off here, the contest is on, Shen has level 2 ultimate, let's start fighting. Notice that KingZone very early, just say, all right, Gorilla, you're kind of screwed, sorry, and they leave him behind. Gnar was in the mid lane, I apologize, but because he was out of position, he got the call that just give Gorilla up, we'll just go back to the top lane. It meant he never really got turret damage done, so KingZone were clearly kind of between 2 shot calls. Should we fight with the Gnar who had walked over, or should he be split pushing? The answer was neither, and that means they kind of lost in both scenarios.
Yeah, it's a very scary place to be in when 4 of your members get hit by Ezreal ultimate, and you hear Rengar coming on in, you see the graphics above your head and the Shen coming in, you have to know it's coming. And they're just like, oh crap, we just got to get out of here. TusiN right now.
First Blood King.
He has 21% of the damage right now.
Don't look at the numbers right now. The numbers are...
Braum is popping off, man. The bloodthirsty support. Someone call up Doa. He'd be happy with this so far.
I talked a bit about whose line. I made a reference to it on the last cast. Remember, the numbers are all made up, and the points don't matter. That is the early game we have here in the LCK, sadly. So don't look at things like damage dealt being above 20% for support. A Braum, no less. I guess it means he's hitting his Qs a lot.
He is. He used it to pick up the first blood, right? So that is something. QSS picked up here for Ezreal very early on. Does not want to get caught out by any of the CC that's on the side of Kingzone.
More safety, Valdez. More safety being picked up in the items. He knows that a pick could lead to so much when there's a pushing advantage and a rotational advantage on the side of Kingzone. Any free time that Gnar, Ryze, especially the Rageblade Varus get with a turret, gonna be unhappy times for Afreeca. So sadly, safety first once again doesn't lead to the action we're craving, but will lead a pretty smart purchase for Kramer.
Yeah. We got triple Ninja Tabi on the side of Afreeca. Not really worried about the Ryze or any other CC. They just want to be able to deal with Prey's damage as well as the Gnar.
Should mention that BDD adjusted his items. You said, why not more scaling? And even though it was at 16 minutes into the game, he did go the way of the Rod of Ages. So he's felt like, with no real other magic damage short of the Rageblade and the Varus damage, that no need to go into the Abyssal Mask. Going to be the Rod of Ages here. And I mentioned it already, FLICKR going for GP10 and a late Rod of Ages. Could have just had a Gathering Storm, and you get away with that in this meta.
Yeah.
From what we're learning.
You know what? He does have Sorcery as his secondary rune there, so
it's unlikely, but it's a chance.
Maybe we'll get a look at that a little bit later on, and perhaps he even does have Gathering Storm.
Looking at the control wards here, a lot of control around the mid lane for Kingzone. They have a very fast Baron team, so getting Baron vision, not that easy for Afreeca, we should mention. The deep vision going down. Seems like Kingzone are focused on the Baron. What you do here if you're Kingzone is you skirmish with the Ryze and then just ult on the Baron and try to burst it is kind of the play. Be even stronger when the Blade of the Ruin King is done for Prey, gone for Wit's End for team fights, but fast Baron, Blade or no, means that Afreeca getting control around the Baron is very difficult and something they desperately need to do.
Yeah, so far it's all about Kingzone in terms of the vision, but finally Afreeca coming on in and clearing out some of that vision. TusiN moving forward with the help of Kramer right behind him. But now Gorilla and Prey nearby. They're not going to give up vision this easily. We'll see if they go for any play. It's going to be hard to go for a pick onto Ryze at this point, but perhaps if Peanut gets a little bit frisky, they can catch him out.
Looking onto the Malzahar to make a play. Bit of a bated breath here, because the game is not really moving forward, and also because Kingzone are on the precipice of a big pick. Speaking of big picks.
Oh, he's going to miss that ultimate once again, and that means that Prey, just throwing out his own, will easily get out of dodge here. TusiN still has his splash. Didn't go too crazy with that one, but just a missed ultimate on that play.
Kingzone keep pushing. If this stays the same, Kingzone will take another outlane turret. Valdez, we should mention, is 275 damage by Peanut. My goodness. This meta.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to stop showing the numbers and pretend. Like, yeah, I'm sure he did damage somewhere.
It's Peanut after all, right? He's very aggressive, right? But not in this game. Not even on Kha'Zix.
Sliding scales of aggression in this
meta. That's like
meta.
1 Q. Like, not even.
Not if they were isolated, it would have been way more
true.
damage.
Okay, ultimate sails wide. Not sure if that was aiming for Prey. He's feeling the pressure. He's like, oh, my damage is probably pretty low on the graph right now. Got to get up there.
Now, he's ready to go. Does have very strong team fight damage. When you go on hit, you're getting a lot of value early because it does not have a critical strike modifier like an Infinity Edge build does. So if he gets free time in a team fight, Varus will outdamage basically anyone on the Rift. The free time is difficult when Malzahar, Rengar, and Braum are going to be diving in with a Shen ultimate to slow him down, but at least the core damage early is much higher and didn't go for an early QSS like Kramer.
Yeah. We do have an Infernal Drake coming up here. Will be very important for both of these teams. Perhaps we will see some fighting around that Infernal. Afreeca does have vision on the Baron right now, so they know that nothing is going to be rushed here.
So what Khan wants to do. His inaction in the previous Dragon fights, what led to the objectives and things coming through. Khan moving over, already in Meganuss, so we'll be exhausted probably by the time Afreeca gets going.
Yeah, just going to throw a boulder. does a bit of chip damage, won't matter at this point. BDD made his way down into the bot lane where Kiin was doing a nice job pushing amongst all of the madness.
You
here.
see blue helping pings onto the Dragon. They know 15 seconds until Gnar can start to even build up rage. Very smart of Afreeca to just wait.
Look at Kiin, he's zoning two people out. Peanut and BDD trying to kill a tanky Shen. Now Gorilla is going to engage. He gets Kramer, but Alistar being chipped down. He's going to go down. And look at Prey now. He's a little bit out of dodge here. He's going to take down Spirit, though, by himself. Khan doing a nice job in the backside, trying to take down Kuro. Not quite able to, but here goes BDD on the rise. He's able to realm warp on in. He wants another kill, but he already burned his flash. Will take out the Ezreal, but that is about it. Let's see if they can go into Baron now, as Spirit is officially out of this fight.
It started a bit comically, but the cleanup was really strong by BDD. Already impressively tanky, didn't have to use his Zonia. So like you mentioned about it, straight onto Baron. Malzahar can teleport in. 3 members of Afreeca to contest.
Yeah, they have a nice bit of damage here. 2 tanky members, TusiN and Kiin coming on in. They are going to peel off the Baron for now. It's really the BDD show here, as the rest of them are so low. But they are going to be pushing in. Here comes Gorilla. There is that burst in from the house. He's trying to get on top of Kiin. There's the 3-man knockup. They are going to be able to get Kiin here. Who will they get else? Looks like Kuro as well will be taken out, and Gorilla with a really nice play. Perhaps now they can try to secure Baron, but lots of low members on the side of Kingzone. Maybe they'll just back off from here.
It's going to end up being extra kills. Gorilla's playmaking, his ability to roam in a meta without Unsealed Spellbook was always praised. Watching the ult here. Doesn't pick up anyone. Spirit's just looking for an exit kill, won't find it onto Prey. And certainly not onto Gorilla.
No.
But I mean, Gorilla was always the roaming god, right? Boots of mobility into roams were kind of how he made his star back on the days of the Coup Tigers, and already was a great player, of course, in his Najin days. Peanut looking for Kramer.
Oh, man, he is really caught out here. TusiN trying to help him out now, but easy pick up for Peanut, jumping on over the wall. And now Spirit's going to be caught out all by himself, trying to help out Kramer and TusiN. But that is a couple of picks that they could not afford right now.
Afreeca had everything in order, all the ducks in a row, but all the teleports from the Unsealed Spellbook and, of course, the top laner. So much creative playmaking, blows open a boring first 25 minutes, just a huge spurt of action, and it should lead to Baron for Kingzone.
Yeah, gonna be an easy Baron pickup. You can see that none of the other members of Afreeca are anywhere near, so they have to give that one away. 3 teleports on the side of Kingzone, making some action in this game. Finally, this is what we were looking for, and you guys can see how much gold they were able to pick up from all the shenanigans. 2-0-2 are both BDD and Prey on the side of Kingzone.
And 100% playmaking, 100% kill participation for Gorilla. Probably will see the ghost from eventually, but read the situation smartly. Righteous Glory just picked up as well. Got the initiation in. Comes in here, and this is the part where Afreeca know they're boned. They didn't respect the fact that teleport could come up. Didn't matter that Alistar was in the Death Chamber previously. Huge, huge triple knock up on the Pulverize. They can pile in, don't have to respect the Malzahar. Oh, not going to be enough at this point in the game to actually take down multiple members in the null zone. They're going to take the turret as well. The game blown open by a bit of magic from Gorilla.
It's a little bit disappointing to see from Afreeca. They had a really good start, especially taking the 2 first Drakes and a couple of nice team fights, but as you said, just not used to the meta, perhaps, the Unsealed Spellbook allowing this all to happen. And just a really heads-up play from Kingzone. So now we see Kingzone 6,500 gold ahead. They have their 2 carries up and farmed, and that's just their 2 main carries, because Gnar and Kha'Zix are also popping off here. We'll see if maybe the Ezreal magic a little bit later on can help Afreeca come back into this game, but at this point, when you're this far ahead, wouldn't even be sad to see Kingzone pick up some tanky items from here.
And the struggle is, for the side of Afreeca, is that they picked up the safety items earlier, right? Damage power spikes were delayed for QSSs to come through, for Kramer, for example. The safety was supposed to deny something like a Baron, a pick that led to a Baron, but the safety was exploited by a moment of brilliance from Gorilla. And now they're behind with items that give them safety, sure, but don't stop Baroned up minions and also a Varus from taking down turrets. And this is where you really feel the fact that there's 7,000 gold down, plus some of their gold has been spent on non-damaging items. They can't take a straight-up 5v5 against Kingzone.
Yeah. You can see on the side of Afreeca, not the best wave clear you were talking about against Baron minions, but just in general. They have the Malzahar up in top, but Kramer one by one trying to pick off the minions in the back line, and the Shen and the Rengar being melee obviously does not help with the wave clear. So they're being pushed in pretty hardcore. This might just be like one of those old SKT games where they take one fight, they take Baron, and then they roll over all of your turrets and take the game in a really short amount of time.
And this sort of playstyle, what we're seeing on the Rift, cements why Kingzone blind picked both their solo laners, because Gnar and Ryze are seen as the gold standard in Korea. We don't play Zoe here with any reliability. We go for the Ryze for his ability to play side lanes and then rotate, and they're playing 3 lanes beautifully, and they might be looking for even more.
Yeah, well, he's got a stopwatch. The ground pound is a little bit late, but it's not going to matter. It's 3v1, and even a Shen shield cannot help him out. Will not have that ultimate for a little bit now, as the plunder continues. Tower after tower, having a huge Baron power play. Kramer is going to QSS out of dodge here, but now it's TusiN in the front. They are going to try to burst out that shield. They almost do, but they get him out of the way. That's going to be another turret down here for Kingzone, and should be an inhibitor in the top lane.
The speed with which this game snowballed away from Afreeca, something KSV never allowed Kingzone to do. Khan in the roster, pushing the maximum in the side lanes, was the only person really performing in the early game for Kingzone. But the moment they have that individual moment where they get a big play, like for example Gorilla in this game, then you see why people have the sky-high expectations for Kingzone, because they've blown apart a game in what? The better part of 6 minutes.
Yeah.
That other teams haven't been able to do in 40. Like, they never had this sort of level of this inspiration from SKT in that 90-minute game against Gnar. But Kingzone's killer instinct from ahead is there. I think they still have a lot of work to do in the early to mid game, understanding who to play around, how to get those sort of leads. But you can see clearly on your screen that when that moment comes, when the Baron falls, when the outer ring of turrets goes down, it's still the old Longzhu that went on to become LCK's summer champions.
Yeah, you were talking about a bit of the negative factors of having 5 carry players on your team, right? Adding Peanut into the lineup instead of Cuz, who would just kind of play from the jungle and be a supporting jungle. But I feel like this game definitely shows some of the positive aspects, right? Because one day you're going to have Gorilla popping off on the Alistar, trying to carry by himself with his teleport plays, with his fantastic engagements. Another day you might have Peanut come from the jungle and completely throw things wide open. But you can see what each member can do in the lanes as well. Khan obviously taking that counter matchup on the top side, but BDD making his presence known early on. Praying Gorilla solid as ever, and now Gorilla showing up in the mid to late game here as well. This team, you can see the skill cap that they have.
And obviously no one questions the skill, but I think we have to adjust our language a bit, because when you think of carries, you usually think they need a lot of gold, a lot of time, and a lot of jungle attention. What you're saying is that they may not have 5 carries, they may have 5 playmakers, which they certainly do. Like you say, everyone here can pop off, one of my favorite adjectives, and win the team a game. But can they also set up one at a time those people? Can we have everyone on the same page of who the bus driver is for this game and who's taking a seat back? That's what still has to be proven over a long season.
Yeah. So looking to see who the bus driver is for this game, as we do take out another inhibitor turret as well as an inhibitor. Khan just going 1v4 right now. Nobody can even touch him at this point, as they're not willing to engage. They just want to play the Gnar game and say, hey guys, let's take this to 60 minutes and hopefully they can't kill us. But we'll see if Kingzone allows that to happen.
And because of the low wave clear and just where the map is at, unfortunately, Afreeca's comp doesn't do anything. In a long lane, in the laning phase, you can gank and you can play your globals, but when you're grouped as 5, Malzahar flashes in and gets killed by the focus fire. In a true 5v5, they aren't able to actually do anything other than dogpile on one member. It's not going to work against the side of Kingzone. So all they can do is watch, and unfortunately that means watch their objectives just go down one by one.
Yeah, no doubt eventually that bottom inhibitor turret and inhibitor will go down. But as for now, looks like Kingzone wants to back off as the Baron is about to spawn. Already 2 lanes have their inhibitors down, and finally some damage in this game.
Rotations.
Even gonna rotation Realm Orb over here. Not even sure if necessary, but will definitely speed the game up quite a bit.
That's what Realm Warp is so strong at doing. When the side lanes are broken, you can make the Realm Warp play. get the absolute maximum. KingZone vindicating their draft, playing towards their draft. Eventually, there is that caveat. Anyone who watched the first 25 minutes knows that because there is so many defensive tools, it took brilliance to actually open up the game. From there, it was the KingZone. We can reward KingZone for how they closed the game, certainly. It'll take time to adjust. This is what their fans want to see. They want to see a victory. Tough ask against Afreeca. Afreeca haven't done a lot wrong in this particular game. You think about it, they didn't respect the third teleport that they, of course, were surprised by. There is a global thing that says when someone changes their summoner spells, but in pro play especially, is your ward line safe? Is your carries in position? Do you have your items? There's a lot of things to consider. They let one thing go askew, and they were heavily punished by Gorilla, and then eventually all 5 members of KingZone.
It definitely seemed like one big play that made it happen, but also Kramer getting caught in the red side jungle, being a little bit too aggressive, right? It was kind of like things snowballed out of control a little bit too fast for Afreeca to keep up, and maybe that's the shot calling, maybe it's just the team not being ready for the crazy aggressiveness of KingZone, but definitely let this one get a little bit away from them. And now with the Baron, we do see the bottom inhibitor turret is going to go down as all 5 members are ready. Even Kiin is getting to work up on this top Nexus turret.
If I learned anything though, Valdez, it's not over till the Nexus goes down, so see if they can actually push it through.
You can see the formation, right? The phalanx of Afreeca. They've got 5 members around the Nexus turrets. They'll let them go with their lives is what they're saying, but KingZone's like, well, I guess we have to take your life then. As they take out the 2 Nexus turrets, one is about to go down. Kiin just getting out of there. Not really in danger of anything at this point. Will they pick up any more kills is really the question. Spirit has that Shen ultimate on top of him, but still taking a ton of damage. He's gonna have that last inhibitor go down as a bunch of kills almost being taken, but no one actually dying. Even Kiin surviving towards the end, but that will be the Nexus as KingZone DragonX takes game number 1.
People were wondering when would KingZone show up to the LCK. Didn't feel like they did against the team of KSV, but today against the Afreeca Freecs who were flying after their victory over KT, it took time, 25 minutes on the rip of setup, a moment of brilliance, and then we saw the KingZone that will really strike fear into teams around the world in the LCK, in international events if they are to qualify. Kiin's quality in the top lane was also the other big highlight of the first 25 minutes until Gorilla took the match truly by the bull with the horns. It was about Kiin taking a turret for free, moving around the map smartly, his lane assignment and mechanics better than that of Rascals, to no one's surprise. Afreeca look a little bit shell-shocked because, like we're saying, they didn't do a whole lot wrong in this game, but you can take the other side of that comment and say they didn't do a whole lot in general, and in the end, the game was taken away by KingZone.
I like their activity early on around the Dragons. I like how they were trying to make things happen with the Shen ultimate, that one fight with the Submarine where they caught KingZone off guard. Gnar really wasn't really there. It showed a lot of, aggressiveness, at least in the game. They were trying to make a play, but after that, just one mistake. And also the fact that Shen got picked last into the Gnar, they knew about that matchup. They're like, we're just going to leave you up there, Kiin. We have to make plays happen with the Shen. We know you're going to lose the matchup and the turret, but certainly did not help them out.
And that's where I'd want to see them adjust. Give Kiin the carry matchup that 2 bans apparently denied the thought of for Afreeca. Give him a carry matchup. Say, I'm going to try and take the lane, because in this situation, they didn't get enough out of their rookie top laner. Unfortunately, he was kind of a non-factor in this game.
Yeah, just kind of sitting up there and taking it. Not much that he could do against that Gnar. So let's take a look at the game facts. Lots of damage, actually, for the Ezreal. He threw out a lot of ultimates, but...
in general, the damage numbers got back-ended a lot in this game, but they started to add up. Great stuff from Gnar, in particular, in lane. Took Shen a long time to get on the board with that one, if you remember, Valdez.
Yeah, the Rengar didn't really do much. Had the one fight where they helped out with the first blood.
Consider that at 25 minutes, there's what, 500, 1,000 gold lead. At what, 30 minutes, 5 minutes later, it was 10,000 gold. That is the epitome of snowball. In solo queue, that 25 to 30 minute thing happens at 15 to 20 minutes, but in competitive play, with the stopwatches, with the overheals, it's delayed. So I think that's what Riot Games will look at, is just finding a way to nudge that earlier, because when the action happens, the game does certainly close pretty fast, based on this evidence.
And it's fun too, you know, the fights, they make sense, they're aggressive, a lot of action is happening, so I guess just tinkering with the timings of it and perhaps tinkering with some of the items as well. Although the stopwatch wasn't really the main reason why this game went to 25 minutes without too much action. But either way, Kingzone looking pretty happy after game number 1. I see a bit of a change here as Peanut is packing up, and a familiar face on the left side with the glasses. Cuz is moving on in.
Afreeca do have 5 subs of their own. We'll see if there's any more made.